Welcome to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Your stream brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. You can find those streams online on the TaylorvilleDailyNews.com Facebook or on YouTube on WTIM TV. I'm here in studio with Taylorville School District Superintendent, Dr. Chris Doherty. Great to have you here, Dr. Doherty.
Good morning, Avery. It's wonderful to be here this morning.
So coming off a school board meeting, $36.1 million budget passed. What are some of the major changes this year versus last year?
In our budget?
Yeah.
Well, we ended the fiscal year in the to the good about $3.5 million, and we had estimated additional fund balance of a little over $1 million. So we were very, very pleased with how the year ended and that we were able to increase our fund balances. Our goal is to keep enough money to operate for a year, so we have a year's day cash on hand, because we are very our business is tied to what the state does, and sometimes they're inconsistent. So we want to make sure we can operate even with their inconsistencies.
Yeah.
So that's how the year ended. And then looking forward this year, really the recession, this was an amendment from last year's budget to close out the year. But essentially, we utilized some grants, a significant amount, about $10.5 million worth. And we just use those for key priorities and really try to be very careful with our fund balances. As you know, we're heading into the build, so we want as many dollars in our coffers as possible for the build, and then also for educational services. Coming up this year, we need funds to deal with the recession. It seems like there's increases on all of our contracts, and last night we had quite a few contracts that we approved. But everything's up, just like at home. Our fuel costs are up on transportation, and our energy bills are up to heat and cool the schools. Our insurance costs are rising. So it seems like it's across the gamut, food costs. Mm-hmm. One of the things we did to help the community because of this recession is we did put forth a grant for the foods program. So we're going to have meals provided for breakfast and lunch for all of our students. Prior to the pandemic, we only had the grant for our elementary students, but it's a community grant. So this year, and we do have a little bit of risk involved that it may cost the district some dollars, but we're concerned about the health of our students. We're concerned about the recession and the economic factors on our community. So we're going to take the risk. If we can get our numbers up on kids taking breakfast and taking lunch, then we get those claims put through and we get those government dollars in to fund that program. So we are really going to be working to improve the numbers and the nutrition for our kids.
So a little bit of a deficit for as you mentioned, the building. We're getting closer to that. I understand that there's some fundraising efforts needed. How much of that will be locally as opposed to, as you mentioned, grants, et cetera?
Well, right now we've got about $14 million for our build. And we've got two plans. We've got Plan A and Plan D, and there's a gap between the plans of $1.5 to $3.5 million. So we right now are out in the community and we're talking to some businesses to see if they could partner with us to help close that gap. The closer that we get to closing that gap, it'll be the larger the facility and the nicer features. And this is a facility that's going to serve the community for 50 to 100 years. So we really want to build it right, and we want to have as much square footage and as good of features as possible. So we are going to be out looking for partnerships. We're offering some naming rights, and we're going to have a variety of opportunities. You can partner, you can name building, you can name a room within the building, you can name a brick, you can name a seat. So there's a variety of ways to get in and to partner with us. And we've got a team approach. Kathy Fergan is helping with us, and so is Lee Matier.
You mentioned Plan A and Plan D. What is the major difference for those two plans?
The major difference is just a little more square footage.
Or Plan D is more square footage? Or
yes.
Okay,
yep.
I see.
It grows.
So we're working towards Plan D as of right now.
Yep. And we told them, we're schools, we like A, so we're calling it A+, but we want to get as close to the D as absolutely possible.
Excellent. As well, Taylorville High School principal named Principal of the Year by a statewide organization, Matt Hutchinson.
Matt Hutchison, our high school principal, was named by the Principal Association as Principal of the Year. We're so proud of him. 25 years he's been running the school at some capacity, and he brings his A game every day. He really knows our kids and our community, and he cares very deeply. One example that he's shown me is just the work he did with his staff to get every single senior to graduate this year. And let me tell you, the last 2 weeks of school, we were all rolling up our sleeves and struggling them across the finish line. But it's that type of leadership he's providing. Very proud of Matt.
That just is one of the examples that you maybe don't see if you're not, unless you're actually there too. Or heck, even if you are there, that's something behind the scene, the type of leadership that he displays.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mr. Hutchison serves the community very well, really cares about the kids. And the great thing is he's been in the community for so long. He knows generations of families, and that helps us get things accomplished because, we're dealing with people.
Didn't you mention 25 years to me?
25 years.
That's incredible.
It is. It is.
Are there any other comparable lengths of service for principals in the district?
In our district?
Yeah, in our district.
No.
No?
No.
That's him.
That's a really good run.
Yeah.
Because it's hard work.
Yeah. A high school. Goodness, I don't want to be in charge of teenagers. And he's in charge of hundreds of them.
He does it really well. We're very happy to have him.
Yeah. Well, also a lot of discussion about the district's bus transportation provider, Durham Bus Services. Can you provide a little bit of background on that issue?
Sure.
And go from there?
So our district contracts services for bus and has done so for quite a while with Durham. And Durham is it's a corporation, and they have a local division here. And our local division has a fleet, and they run our routes for us. So we contract with them every year. And each year there's an incremental increase in that contract, usually about a cost of living contract. And in recent years, we renegotiated with them to contain those costs through the pandemic and those types of things. And right now they are faced with a driver shortage, as is the rest of the state and nation. There's been new rules put forth on how to get a bus license. Anyway, long story short, they're asking for more dollars to pay higher wages to their staff.
How much are they asking for an increase?
The current starting rate is $17 an hour, and they'd like to take it to $21. So they'd like to put those costs directly over to the district. We'd like to partner with them. We understand that employees need to be paid well, and that there is a gap between what they're paying and what some competitors are paying, and they're having a hard time drawing in employees.
But that said, I understand that the district did come up with a number to at least start negotiating too.
Yeah, we're working with them, trying to get the wages up, but trying to be respectful too. We are a not-for-profit, and we have limited income sources. So we have a fund accounting system. Basically, there's different pots of money for different purposes.
Right.
And our transportation fund always runs short. So we're digging an empty hole, and we got to dig it a little deeper. So anytime we do that, we have to slide money over from a different pot. And so that's part of the conversation. And that's in the state formula. They just simply don't fund it to the level that they need to.
Also, I mean, what was the feeling among a lot of the board members when they heard about the request for, I believe it was upwards of 15% increase.
Yeah. Well, the frustration is every year we've been doing incremental increases.
Right.
And they haven't turned those over to their employees. They have kept them for corporate prosper.
I see. And so there's a little bit of hesitation among the board that this will actually be used to improve employee salaries.
No, they believe this time, because it's called a wage opener on the contract.
Understood.
They believe that it will go to employees. The question is, why didn't you incrementally increase salaries
beforehand?
Yeah. Why is it dumped back on the district? But in contracts, that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
There's, they put forth, they bid on the work, and then when they realize they can't perform the work, then it comes back, and oftentimes you have to turn around and pay it.
Let me reintroduce you here. That's Superintendent Dr. Chris Doherty here on the WTIM Morning Show with Taylorville School District. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first.
WTIM WTIM. Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Landmark of Taylorville, proud to bring you the stream on TaylorvilleDailyNews.com, Facebook, and WTIM TV, YouTube. You'll always do better with Landmark, along with People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. I'm here in studio with Taylorville School Superintendent, Dr. Chris Doherty, and talking a little bit about the school board meeting last night. Dr. Doherty, also on the agenda last night, the board approved the renewal of the district's property and casualty insurance policy with an increase. The letter the insurance broker sent the board director, the board indicated there were several factors that raised the premium. What were some of those factors?
Basically, we had a claim when the tornado came through. It removed the roof on the Pepsi building. So that's hovering back there as they do a back look. We had a fire claim on a structure that was out by the Ball Diamond. And so that was a claimable piece. And then they just took a look at risk factors with schools in general, between cybersecurity and safety. And the risks are up and the rates are following.
Yeah, and I would imagine that the tornado is part of that risk history that they considered going on.
It sure is.
Yeah, which, oh man, nothing that the district really could have done about that except just respond and move forward.
Right.
Well, I wanted to get into some of the lighter stuff. Last night you had Lizzie Schaefer, Cole Pollock, and Lacey DeClerc speak a little bit, and they prepared a speech. What did they talk about?
So those kids have just done remarkable things. We actually had to have an FFA brag sheet last night of 2 pages because they are just taking the awards. Lizzie won the star for the state agricultural award. The other kids won speaking contests. We just had 2 kids, Drew Mickey and partner in Scotland, win an international world livestock judging award in Scotland. I mean, that's hot off the press. And just heading into junior year in high school and under their belts is a world championship. How proud could we be of these kids? It's just remarkable. The program is stellar.
That's awesome. International.
International.
Not just national.
Yep.
International.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Waylon Pollock. Just some of the names: Abby Norris, Abby Erlenbush. These are all state winners. Lizzie Schaefer, Cole Pollock, Lacey DeClerc. The list is just long. Let's see. We've got Jay Blyler and Drew Mickey. Again, they looked at calf production and the iron ore effects in water. I mean, the stuff that the kids are researching, they're looking at cattle production and embryo. And one of the studies is they took a look at different grades of embryo to see if it mattered. And they classified them, basically as A, B, C's, D's. And did it matter, the quality of the embryo as far as offspring? And the answer is no. So when you look at the research and what you can do for production, it's real relevant to the field. I mean, the work our kids are doing, it's real work. Super proud of them.
State Proficiency Award, Drew Mickey, state FFA degrees, Lizzie Schaefer, Briar McLaughlin. I mean, as you mentioned, this list is extensive.
Isn't it amazing?
What can you say about the overall success of the FFA program?
Well, let's not leave out Lily Winans, Ben Wamsley, delegates to state. Abby Norris is in the press conference booth for the Farm Credit Bureau. Lily Winans, Ben Walmsley, Wade Sorrell, Hannah Hartwick, Ian Parks. Abby Norris is coaching the team. There's one of our students is going to do a keynote speaker for the leadership luncheon, over 350 people. That's Lizzie Schaefer. These are skills that the kids are learning in the program that are life skills, and they apply. Sue Schaefer and her team, Lori Parks. I mean, just an amazing leadership of a program. These kids are working hard. They're always working. They're always working, and they're starting to get recognized for it. And it's just like a snowball of success. It's powerful.
Would you say that is kind of is a continuation of a tradition, or is this kind of a new development for Taylorville?
Continuation of a tradition.
Yeah.
I would call it refinement.
Yeah.
We're just refinement. We also have on the international, we have the international champions, Wayne Pollock and Drew Mickey, who have the world title. But in that same competition, we also took 3rd place with Liam Stewart and Audrey Curtin. I mean, these kids are remarkable. If you guys know these kids, seek them out and watch them because they're shooting stars.
Yes, and congratulate them for their efforts. We have about a minute left here, Dr. Doherty. So what else is there that you'd like to highlight or maybe just re-emphasize about your Taylorville School Board meeting last night?
Well, we had a reception as the meeting began to honor our retiring teachers. And our teachers just endlessly lead kids. So last night we honored Chris Doherty, and she was the preschool teacher. Just a remarkable, remarkable human being and lady. We honored Art Ward, who was a high school special education teacher. And again, just a kid whisperer and watched many generations of kids. Some he said he had from 5th grade all the way through. So definitely a vested interest in kids' future and success. Tanya Goodrow, who was in a PE role and also did a ton of sports leadership in our district. She's now running the Kona Ice Truck. So if you see her out and about, make sure you thank her for all those years of service. And then Joe Champley, who was in the gym at the junior high for so many years. So what our district does is we have an old style school bell that we engrave and honor our retirees with as a memory and a thank you from the district and community. But super proud of all of our teachers, retirees, and then of course those that are still going to stay with us. And then we've got a few new coming in this year to induct in.
That's Taylorville School District Superintendent Dr. Chris Doherty. Thank you so much for coming on, Dr. Doherty.
Thanks, Avery.
WTIM